fun time starting up here with some comic drawing. This is one that's already done. So, what you're seeing here is the first page for my anthology piece for Killtopia. So, which is up on Kickstarter right now, and I'll post the. I didn't post a link in this video, but I'll edit where you can see the link in there. So, what it is, it's a Killtopia is a comic book series all about a dystopian future with heavy basis in technology. So that's what I'll be working on today. In case you don't know, my name is Zak Kinsella. I make comics, and I'll be drawing live for the next hour or so. So that's me. And this is, again, like I said, my first page for Killtopia. I'm going to be outlining, thumbnailing, and working on the second page tonight. So I'll bring up this first panel nice and big so you can see it there. So what these are these little drones, and they are, oh, so my AirPods just connected now. Nice. Hopefully you guys have been able to hear me. What we have here is the first panel, and these little drones are charging right now. That's what the green indicates there, of course. And we have a bored office worker with some cool cybernetics, if I don't say so myself. They're pretty awesome looking. And so he's just a grunt security guard on his computer while these drones are charging. And then we get a view from the drone's point of view, showing like what's going on its screen. And then we flash to a 3-panel car wreck. So this is what the drone is reviewing its footage here right now. And so as we look at it, we're coming in close to a car wreck. And I really wanted to keep this color palette kind of simple. I like making my comics without the traditional color panel. So we're close up on the mangled arm, and that mangled arm is a robot arm as we come in to see it, and that's going to play a huge piece in this story here right now coming up. So with that being said, that's what I'll be progressing into. This is just a short 3-page piece for this anthology. So with that being said, I'm going to work on the second one here tonight. And I'll show you like a little behind the scenes with the script and everything. I started my layouts on this panel, on these panels right here. I'm going to switch over. I got my 6B pencil, got some black. So I wanted to do like a different than normal 5-panel layout. Simply because the script was calling for some angles that would work better horizontally than they would be like. I mean, like the last page is 5 panels as well, and I could have easily done the same 5 panels layout, but I wanted to do a little something different to kind of get the feeling of a drone's point of view, of this like widescreen point of view. So it's going to be, I'm going to go back again to this page. It's going to be like basically 5 panels, like that middle panel showing the drone doing its thing and looking for people and looking at people. So that's what I got coming up on over through here. And that's where we'll be heading out as we kind of work on this page over here. So let me get this up. I'm going to split my screen in half so I can take a look at my script as well. And I messed that up. So let me just do this, because I am right-handed. So this is like, I usually like to start off figuring, like just doing these thumbnails without anyone around or any distractions. But I thought it would be a good way to, I thought it would be a good way to show the comic process in full here. So, like, you have over here on the side, I want you to take a look at the script in full here is like, so page 2. So this shows us our full script, right? Um, so Joy's point of view is going to be the first panel, and we're looking at that mangled arm, but it's outlined in green. So kind of a similar shot to that last panel, but I'm going to do it in like a widescreen view. And then panel 2, droid POV back to the blank screen with a single line of code on the top. So that'll be the same as panel 2 in the previous thing. I could easily not redraw it and just copy and paste, but I think that's lazy, and I'm going to redraw it and add a little bit more pizzazz to it, a little bit more techno detail. So in panel 3, we're going to cut to another street level angle of the crash. Droid arm is outlined in green again, but there's a few blue sparks coming out of it, and something strange is happening. And then droid point of view, but a horizontal split screen with the same crash image as panel 3. As we see, the droid start to question what it's seeing. And then finally, droid's now fully arm. Let me get that back here. Droid's arms are fully outlined in blue and glowing strangely. They should feel like a life glow, something outside of the typical fluorescent glow we've seen before. Neat. So let's push it on over, and let's start outlining this and start making it come to life. So this is going to be like, my thumbnails can get pretty sketchy. So just so you know on that one, and I'm going to take this down a notch. There we go. And start to come in. And I'll make my first circle here, and I'm going to bring it in and around so that it kind of looks like that droid screen here again. So we'll make it there. We'll make another line. Oops, wrong one. We'll make another line around this way. And if you don't watch out with Apple Pencil, if you double tap it, it'll jump right on over to the eraser. And that can be a little bit of a pain in the tail sometimes because you're just kind of, working, doing your thing. And I'm just putting in some more paneling, some like motherboard looking stuff, right? And then I'm going to put X's right here to indicate that it's going to be all black. And so it'll be mostly like black panel until that lettering comes onto it here. So we have our first panel sketched out. And like I said, I don't plan to give these all that much detail. Like I like to do the detail in the pencils and the inks, mostly the inks. But for the sake of doing this one here tonight, I'm going to give it a little extra here. And so again, what does panel 1 want? Droid POV, but now the mangled droid arm is in green, right? So what did the last panel look like? Always good to go back and check your reference to be like, how did I draw this? And I did this droid arm. And so I think what I'm going to do is basically do this panel, but like cut it in third right there and make it a longer panel. So you can come back into my layouts here. And we have our arm, our bicep right there, and this right here, and our hand right here. And like I said, I'm not giving too much detail. I'll do that like when I actually pencil it. But I like my layouts. Layouts are honestly the most important part of making a comic, so you can figure out like what the camera angle is going to be. Like this one's pretty straightforward, right? But I want to do one camera angle. Like these first two are pretty straightforward. The third one I'm going to get a little bit more dynamic and use some more dynamic perspective in that, so I can like change up my camera angles so that they don't look so stale, right? Because I mean, like if I wanted something that's, and maybe stale is not the word for it, but just kind of like, um, what's a good word for it? Static. There we go. So like if you're watching like a television program, like something like I don't know, like Grey's Anatomy or something like that, like there, or like a typical sitcom, their cameras are pretty static. They don't go to like dynamic angles a whole lot of the time. Whereas like with the most recent X-Men '97, it's a dynamic show. It really needs to like pop and have some crazy different angles. And that's how I feel about comics, especially one with like with one that's like really trying to tell the story of this of just this static robot arm. Like nothing is moving in these panels on the second page. Nothing is going to be like as dynamic and as exciting as something that would happen in an X-Men. And it's fine. It's a good script. I took it on for a reason. I thought it was a really cool challenge once it came across. And I'm really excited for this these pages because I get to tell this story with just one panel of human and the rest of it all like cyber technology and all of it with some really funky devices doing some funky device things. Right? So there we go. So like I said, I'm kind of establishing continuity between those two pages with this first one. So I can say like, okay, like this is just a cut in, and we come in a little bit further. So I got my angle there for this one here. So we have an angle of with a first angle, and what I'm really conscious of, one thing to know is spacing. So right now in panel one and panel two, or panel one, there's no thought bubbles, there's no narration, none of that stuff. So I'm not worried about planning on having to have any of that stuff obscuring my art. I can take up the whole panel. With the second one, I have two balloons, basically, or two pieces of dialogue. And those are going to go inside that black area in the middle. Um, with the third panel, I can take up the whole screen again. The fourth panel, again, is going to be split in half. So that's going to be kind of funky. I'm going to make it to where, like, not only I'm not going to make it a clean break horizontally, because I don't want it to look like a panel break. Um, I definitely want to have like some static interference in the horizontal split. And then, so that's like where I have to plan out where those errors are going to go, right? Which I don't think will be too big of a deal. And finally, in the last one, we're going to plan that out for quite a bit of space on through there for that. It's just one. It's just one piece of dialogue. The script has uh, a lot more information than it does words, and I think it's nice. It's nice and minimal. I kind of dig that about it. You know, by the way, uh, Krista is writing one cool little minimalist story here, and the third one I won't spoil it for anybody, but I think it has a cool ending. Honestly, I'm really excited to be working on their comic. All right, let's take a look and see what we got. Panel 3, Droid POV, cut to another street level angle of the crash scene. The droid arm is outlined in green again, but there are a few blue sparks. Right, so this is where I want to get a little dynamic with it. And I want to have basically my horizon coming right over here, and I can do the street. It's a simple 1 point perspective that I'm thinking of, but I want to have like the car wreck kind of right there and the arm right over here. So just thinking of where that like this street probably come out a little bit further than that. yeah, so I'm gonna make that the thing here, um, and kind of make this come in a lot closer and keep this going ad infinitum down the road, right? So we're gonna have our car wreck and the big part of our car wreck like right over here on the other side. I'm gonna have my arm right over here. And again, like I said, this is about as detailed on layout sometimes as I like to get. Because I was like, do I have to? If I can avoid drawing a car multiple times, I will avoid it. Um, but that car is getting a little bit bigger because I'm finding out the scale of it here. So we'll crop the car. Like we'll have like the rest of the car accident kind of like this, and maybe we'll have some buildings in the background, that kind of thing, to show where we're where we are and what's happening. And honestly, I had the light source coming out a different way, so I need to change that. Like, I'll have the buildings basically in black while the sun's setting that way is, very. So sometimes I get caught up in the. I might make that arm smaller. Sometimes I get caught up in a little bit of the minutia of this. So if I scale it down, yeah, I think that looks better. Turn it this way. So I have my car rack and I pulled my angle out where it's like a little bit better of a view. Um, that way I can play around with it. And I mean, it would be, I'm kind of like, I'm a little second guessing myself in this part because it is like from that droid's point of view, and I'm trying to basically like make sure this flows as a story correctly. And that's why, like I said, I don't usually do my thumbnails live, but I think it's important to see the comic process out here, rather than just seeing like me draw something, finished, um, and have a finished page like this and talk about it, and then like, show a time lapse, right? I can do that and just like do this real quick, right? And just like have it come across. And I probably will do this for a separate video, um, and talk over it with my process sometime here soon. But for now, we're doing it live. So I'm kind of thinking like, I was like, okay, we'll have this arm and it's glowing green and it's kind of sparking, um, and moving around like that, like this. Like I said, I really wanted to show off a different panel, a different, like, just something a little more dynamic in the storytelling. So I might put a pin in that and come back to it. Panel 4, droid POV, but a horizontal split screen with the same crash image as panel 3. So we see the droid start to question what it's seeing. So, with that in mind, we'll keep the arm in there. We will copy, and we will paste, and we'll come down here and drop it in. And then I'm going to do a thicker line, and I'm going to do like that. So it shows like that distortion. It's like I'm not gonna. I'm not sure if I'll copy and paste it just like that. I might. It's kind of one of those things you make a decision on. Like, is it an easy panel to do? Do I want to make this deadline? That kind of thing. I don't really have a thick a hard deadline um, for this, but I want to get it done as fast as I can, honestly, so I can have like I can move on to the next thing and get back to Cryptid and talking about my Mothman comic. But I also have some other stuff I'm working on here soon, so I want to like right now I'm like just gearing up for the year, and I want to put as much stuff out as I possibly can. I really want to get back into the swing of things with making comics and going back to conventions. But I really want to make sure this is like a consistent live stream, so you can see like my comic process. Even if there's like right now, there's just one person watching, and that is awesome. I'm super happy about it. So, but I hope this audience grows. So let's take a look at panel 5. Panel 5. Panel 5. So the arm is now outlined in blue, glowing blue stranger. This should be like a lifelike glow, something outside the typical fluorescent tech glow we've seen so far. Okay. And this is again where I'm going to, like, I've got a good angle on both of these, and I think that third angle is going to work for me now that I think about it. Simply because I want to show the car crash again and just make sure we're like, since we flipped the page, we're looking at the same thing. I'm always thinking about how the reader goes from one page to the next. And even though we have like consistency from panel 5 to panel 1 on this one, I want to keep that consistency going throughout the whole page. So like, then we have a throwback to the earlier page, and then we have 2 panels, and I really want to make sure that car crash is where, like, since we break up where we're going with one panel, I want to make sure we come back to the same place, just a different angle. These little drones fly around, so like I can kind of play around with my camera however I want, which is great. I am excited for that. So then, how do I want to like show this hand next? Is the next thing, this arm. And so I think like I'm gonna do like I'm thinking about doing the hand here, the arm, and then we come in tight, right? And we have our so if we come in tight, there's a lot of foreshortening that has to happen, but then I can start doing this blue glow. So I cropped it kind of a little tighter than I wanted to. So what I'm going to do, and I love, this is the way we work digitally, just to bring it out a little like that. We know it's the same arm from the first panel, but I just want to make sure that like this panel is showing that sparkling. I'm gonna put like some what you call it? Sparkle. Those are sparkle indicators for me. So here we go, moving them back and forth. So it's sparkling, and I think this is gonna be exactly where I want it to be, but I'm going to do like a couple of different outlines of like crazy blue stuff to really make sure it is glowing and showing. So those are my thumbnails, right? So that's my thumbnail for the next page. So what I'm going to do is start jumping into just penciling the next page here. So what I'll do is I'll take a screenshot, shrink it down, hit Dunzo there, and save the photos. Then I already have my new page ready to go with my guide, my template in there, and I'm going to pull this layer 1 over that. I'm going to switch to blue as a pencil because it's just where I'm comfortable with. I do these shortened version of these on TikTok, and what's kind of cool is that I what I do is talk about my process and talk why I use blue to pencil still. So this is the comic book page template. It's just what I keep in my files to use as my guides for bleeds and trims. So I have plenty of space, know where I'm working at without cutting off the any pieces of the page for the printer. So it has printer marks all over it. I can use that to send over there. But traditionally, non-photo blue is exactly what it says it is. It doesn't show up in photos, so it doesn't show up in copies. And this is what we used to pencil on, and what a lot of people still pencil on for comic book pages. But I used to work in like you could also draw in that blue, and so I would pencil out in that blue, and then I would ink it with brush and some waterproof pens, and then I would erase it, and then I would scan it to color it. Then a lot of times it was for a long time I was doing watercolor comics, and so I just then do watercolor over it and scan it again, composite everything, and then send it off to the printer. All right, so here we go. Let me up the size of this a wee bit. There we are. And I am working in Procreate. That's what I like to work on my comics in. There we go. 5 panels. Make sure we give them some what we call gutters. Gutters are simply the spaces in between panels. So if you don't know, now you know. So it's looking pretty good there. I got them spaced out. Usually this takes a couple of rounds for me to space out my comics correctly. So this is when I'm like, okay, I got to bring up. Let's see. Try this. Now I got my panels here. And there we go. This is always the fun part once you when to decide to start doing this and jumping in. It's always yeah, it's always a little like nerve wracking to jump in on like a fresh page. It's the fun of it, but it's also like, oh. So I'm gonna start on. I never start on the first panel. It's a weird superstition of mine. But I don't start on the first panel. I start on the second panel. Let's go and do this. And I was just trying to make the size right. I still kind of hate that. Okay, we're gonna get it. There we are. Man, it looks kind of funky, doesn't it? I'm going to change it back to an oval because I think it works a little bit better that way. I can come in a little bit smaller and adjust it. I think right there is exactly where I want to be. It's getting like little flashbacks to the original SmackDown entrance where I can go like this and make it like that. So this is when I start like I said, I was penciling out those lines here. And if you don't know when you're working in Procreate, you can make it to where like your lines come out as perfect lines, straight and wonderfully horizontal lines, um, without having to use a ruler. By like you hold your pencil down and you put one finger down, and it makes it like automatically straight into the page, no matter what angle you're drawing at, too, which is pretty sweet. Uh, I am a big fan. Excuse me. Like if I draw right from here, can make it perfectly straight. Nice. Then I'll put some diodes in here. I call them diodes. I don't know what a diode is. I usually put them in groups of 3. It just looks neat. That didn't work. There we go. A little square. Kind of off a little bit. It's supposed to do like perfect shapes like rectangles and whatnot, but I find sometimes it is not the case. There we go. Like I said, I'll just kind of give an indicator myself. This is all going to be black. I'll remember, but you know. If you know, you know. So there we go. We are rock and roll on the second panel. It feels good. I'm going to keep pressing on here. I'm going to keep. No, I feel like I need something in that negative space up at the very top. So let's do it. Awesome. So now I feel like I'm going to do something ridiculously detailed. Make a little and I'll play with these a little later. But I think they should be split up. Here we go. Diodes. Panel 2 is coming together. Ooh, excuse me. Panel 2 is rocking and rolling. I'm happy with it so far. And let's do some more, shall we? There's not a whole lot to talk about when you're just making straight lines, but I do enjoy this part of making comics. The thumbnails, um, hmm, the thumbnails, they kind of are what they are. I like figuring out as I've grown as a comic artist, I like figuring out my thumbnails more and more. And I like having quiet time to do that. Because I kind of, tonight was kind of an exception, and I was a little nervous about it, honestly, because I like to sit there and mull over like what storyline and angles are going to be in panel design, and it's really like I said, it's the thing I take the longest on to like kind of mull about it. Tonight was definitely an exception, but I really wanted to talk through the whole process so y'all could see what it looks like. Because I don't think a lot of people get online. They'll kind of show you like what a thumbnail is, but they don't talk about the whole process of what goes into thumbnails and how how they are the most important part of making a comic book. Like if you don't figure out the angles and what you're doing beforehand, your story won't make sense. And not only will it not make sense, it's going to confuse the reader. And I grew up in the age of like '90s, like radical storytelling. Like everyone had taken a page out of like ignoring like how the comics grid worked, and there were just some times where you look at these splash pages, especially with like one comic up here, panel, or one panel up here, one panel over there, and they're like all scratchy angled and or scratchy outlines and blood splatters everywhere, right? And it was like I don't know how to read this. Like I go back and look at them, so I just kind of like don't make those storytelling mistakes. At the same time, I think I'm a little bit more traditional as far as like making comic books. I don't have panels that overlap all the time, and I don't. I play it pretty safe with my storytelling, and I like to do it like that way because I like to have a nice, clean story that anyone can like follow as a Z. And you go 1, 2, 3, and that's how you lead someone's eye here, here, and here. And when I see that being broken, I was like, it doesn't drive me crazy or anything like that, but it's also something that I'm like, man, this feels weird that this truck is. It feels weird that this truck would be driving this way when I want to lead a rear eye that way to the next page. So that's just an example. I might be a little more particular about that aspect of storytelling than most people, but hey, to each their own, honestly. I'm just very, very particular about making sure y'all can read these. Do another one of these and these squares in here. Do a big circle up there. Yeah. Oh yeah. do like a little like kind of like a motherboard. Like I said, I used a future retro future motherboard. Here we go. So that's panel two. Like panel two doesn't have a whole lot of like detail to it. Like I said, I just really wanted to make it a panel that you could have the main focus be a black area and still break it up compositionally to where like I could have easily have just done the view screen, right? And just made the sides black like in that first panel. And that first page honestly didn't call for that view. Um, I just made it like because like when I was telling the story visually, I was just kind of like, all right, how am I connecting this first panel with the second panel? Um, and so that's when I decided to make flip it to take off the screen, the blank screen, and have it being like seeing panel one from its point of view, like we're transitioning views. So that was a call I made on the page, and it's more like the more you get confident as a storyteller, the more you're going to be able to get that confidence to work as a co-creator on a script, and simply not just a work for hire comic artist. That's biceps too big. There we go. Get that tricep in there, get that top part. Alright, I think I have the angle I want to use. And like I said, it's pretty similar to that other page. And I'm gonna have to take a look at the previous page as well to see like how I drew the arm. Simply because like I just off the top of my head don't remember. I'm like I have the basic gist of it, you know what I mean? But I don't have the whole thing memorized. But I'm liking how that first panel came out. So you can see like when I draw from a thumbnail, like things will change from that drawing there. And I think like this arm cropped out there, not showing the whole bottom part of it is fine. Um, there's times when like you'll peel in as an artist and like you don't have to show everything, but there's just always times when like there was a time when I was a storyteller early in my career where I was not like drawing a lot of full bodies. Like I was really good at facial expressions, and that was kind of my strength. So I stuck to it, and then my comics were all just like talking heads. Um, and so then I had to challenge myself and be like, hey, if I'm not seeing at least like one pair of feet, like a full body on each page, then I think I'm not like succeeding where I need to be as a storyteller. Um, and that came after a good couple of like savage critiques and honestly like I if I'm not a big fan of like the blowhard savage critique. I think there's ways to be constructive without being a like high and mighty asswipe about it. That's just my 2 cents. But like whenever someone brings me something to look at a comic convention, it doesn't happen too often because I'm just an indie dude making comics. But every once in a while, like some kid will bring me something cool, and I'll be like, "Hey, this is cool, but I think you should do this, this, and this to become a more successful storyteller." And I just don't think this like tears someone's artwork to shreds, making them tough by their bootstraps is a way to go about things. That's just me. Alright, so let's do a little bit of recon. How does this arm look? Okay. What I was looking for, excuse me, is this cuff right here. I was like, how did I draw that cuff? What did I draw up at the very top there? And what I might do is screenshot it. So I can save it for later. So now I can pull that down and look at it here and jump back and forth and have my reference. Nice. So what I'm working with is, I think I'm working on with my HB. No, I'm working in 6B. So I'll make this a little bit bigger here in a moment and start really. You couldn't see this before, but I'm going to put like. So it's coming in like that. I'll just make the hint. I'll make it like a modern action figure. Pinless. But I'm going to put a few more lines just where the arm bends there. Just so we know, like, that's where the elbow is going to be. I'm going to erase this part because it wasn't accurate to the piece. We'll make this, we'll make that, we'll make this, and we have a like a cable coming out there. There we go. And right here I have a big cable, and I have a couple more small cables coming out of there. I wanted to get as close as I could to that. And we had a piece of, like a big honking chunk of metal protruding out there. And I'll add its own details right here, but right now I'm gonna like add some, like there should be some glow around it. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna draw it or I think I will. Like kind of have like, I don't know, like I don't know if I want to draw that glow or not, honestly. I don't think I will. But I want to draw like the this is where it gets to be a little tough because you gotta like come back to the script and kind of look at like what the writer wants in it. And I was like, yeah, okay, so there should be like some blue sparks starting to come out of this at this point. I think no. So let's go back to our script. Okay. It should be in just a green now. I'm going to draw a thin line around it. And honestly, I don't have to draw a thin line around it. I can do like, I could easily do a just a like a luminance pen or something like that around it, right? But yeah, that's really where I'm going to go with it. And I'm going to put some wreckage back behind it, some black space. There we go, man. So it'll be a lot of like when I ink it, what I'm probably gonna do is make that line on top of the that green on top of another layer. I'll probably ink that line separately. So I can do like some drop shadow effects on it and make it like a true green outline around it. And yeah, we'll just kind of go from there. And I'll make that part black. And I've got this big old hunk of metal coming back in over here. Because when you do effects like this, like and it can get a little confusing with your lines. So inking them on a separate layer helps out quite a bit, honestly, so you can see it on and off beforehand. Or I can ink this whole thing and then come back to the green line around it afterwards. That's kind of what we're looking at here. So that's my little introduction to this anthology. And like an hour went by pretty quick, but I really wanted to show you this process and just see what comes out of it and what it does and how I make comics. So that's what I got. I only got 2 panels into this, but like that's okay. I'm gonna work on it for the rest of the night, most honestly, and I'll show you the inks on the next one, and as well as probably do the 3rd page on the next one as well. So that's me for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you so much. Like, comment, and subscribe as always, so you can get those notifications and see when I go live. It's typically going to be every Tuesday night at 6:30. I really want to make this a weekly thing to make sure that like it catches on and I can have some cool art jam nights. So that's me. I'm going to end this